he's
field.
really still a colleague
Yeah.
and could be a good,
Right.
Yeah, he is,
Right.
true blue,
Yeah.
as we say,
Yeah.
and recently divorced, so he's got time on his hands.
Yeah. Now, Neil was telling me a year and a half ago that there's some noise at his university about pulling him into the service learning arena, but he was also resistant to that, and so I'm not sure kind of how that's worked out.
Can you say a little more about the connection with the Accelerate 77 program? I'm intrigued by
Well,
the whole thing.
Of course, that's taken on a life of its own, but the research process that initiated Accelerate 77 was done by the university students in our program.
Let's see.
So, and that was finding the problems, it was doing what?
It was-
Not finding the problems, but doing the research that identified the neighborhood level initiatives that even now were framed as sustainable initiatives.
Okay.
Some of them green, not all of them, some of them focusing on social justice, but contributing to neighborhood sustainability. And so they identified between 800 and 900 in the city of Chicago over a couple of years.
Yeah.
Was this through some kind of
research.
sounds like a town meeting process, but maybe not quite like
Yeah,
that.
a little bit, yeah. But it's presuming that that we don't have to initiate stuff and
Right.
bring the solution. There's
Yeah.
stuff going on out there right
Right,
now that's
excellent.
developing
Yeah.
solutions.
more
And
of
to
a
be in
shared
dialogue with that, to
approaches.
identify that, link them together, so
Yeah.
they learn from one another,
In
and
my
to
report-
serve them.
yeah, my report of one of the meetings of one of the three groups that are running
Yeah.
just showed, you know, a lot of interest and a lot of plan that they're working on in terms of that neighborhood sustainability. Well, it's bigger than a neighborhood
Yeah.
right now, but it really looks as though they're moving ahead in a lot of ways. So that's the next step for Accelerate 77. So both programs, I think, have a lot of possibilities as current time that can match somewhat to our archives as a sign that this isn't something that was only good in the 70s or so.
Right. Interesting.
Also, how might you relate to like the transitions movement?
Well, we've identified the Transition Towns movement as one of the local initiatives globally that we lift up as an example in our academic curriculum. And certainly in terms of the neighborhood work in Chicago, Transition Towns folk are active and involved in a lot of the neighborhood work.
Because you do, part of it is, it sounds to me like you do enough of a leadership component that it could really be helpful. And I was wondering also if you have sort of self-standing modules, you know, that you could go in and say do a demo module for a transitions group or for a group, say, at a college where, you know, that where they could kind of see even 2-3 days or something of what this might be to get a taste of it.
Yeah, and I think that our operating assumption right now is that our particular responsibility would be more toward what happens in relation to universities and colleges, and that Accelerate 77 is really shaping the local workshops and modules that are going on. I know that we encountered some interest at one of the universities in central Minnesota in figuring out how to do civic engagement like we did, you know, through the initiated the Accelerate 77. And so a couple of sociologists were beginning to explore with us what it would mean for us to come and do some work with their sociology department in terms of shaping purposeful civic engagement. That's not come to fruition yet, but that's the sort of thing that might be, something for the future. In its pristine form, we want to do this service learning program in a residential setting. And so that, the folks experience intensive intentional community life, as well as integrated academics and purposeful civic engagement. But we've been able to flex it so that we can do it in a way when it's not residential. Last summer was not residential, for example. And with the students from the French students, we only see them once a week. So it's like feeding them a bite. Once a week we give them a bite. So as things develop a little more slowly in that model.
Is there, I know this is on your mind, what kinds of things fund this kind of activity? Are there foundations that are interested in this kind of activity, or is this pretty green area?
I'm sure there must be somewhere. we have not found them right now, and so we're relying on the tuition that students pay to the university and the additional fees they pay to us. And so far, of course, that's not been an adequate funding model.
Well, I'm thinking,
It would be if we had 12 to 15 students.
Here would be my suggestion. Think about companies that depend upon neighborhoods, like Starbucks,
Mm-hmm.
or McDonald's,
Mm-hmm.
or, and just say, for instance, I know McDonald's had this program called LSM, Local Store Marketing. It was the most popular, in-demand program that the office ran. And when we did the program for McDonald's, the big complaint was we couldn't get LSM. Which is the birthday parties and how do we work with the communities and da-da-da-da-da. And the contradiction was that they only gave those to places that were in trouble. If you weren't in trouble, you couldn't get it, because it really boosted sales. So I would think that over these years, especially people like Starbucks and others that really want viable neighborhoods, would be very interested in funding either Accelerate 77 or, this.
Yeah, that's an excellent idea.
James, what have you done on testimonials and just evaluations? The second thing I want to hand to some professor, a friend of mine, is, what are the words? What is the feedback? What is the reviews? What is the...
We've got good, strong testimonials that unfortunately are not in these write-ups, but we do have good testimonials.
I want some of those for me immediately.
Yeah. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. That's one of the things I've noticed is missing from the write-up that we've done so far.
Thank you.
So James, one of the questions.
And let me just finish also, and also we've done careful evaluation of the programs we've done so far. So.
I'd like to see that too.
Picking up on Barry's earlier question, if one wanted access to a digital copy of some of this material, you're going to
I'm going to forward it on.
instead of just photocopying.
Yeah.
No, I don't want to do that.
Yeah, we've got that.
Yeah. Is there a way to go through you?
Yeah. Save is the key there.
Save.
Save it. Yeah.
And I think we need to figure out how to maybe do an experiment on this relative to digitizing the archives. How you do it. We've got this book here that gives us information on how to keep track of digital records and stuff. But I think we ought to use the service learning as a prototype for that. Just begin. Well, that and Accelerate 77. Just begin and get our feet wet and figure out how we do that.
I have another idea. Or did you finish?
Yeah.
I have another idea for. I have a friend of mine that the daughter went to learn international development and didn't go overseas, but ended up in Billings, Montana, and that was a place that she could help them figure out what to do about city planning. Then they had never had a city planner or some small regional city. And what strikes me is that, here in Chicago, you do have so many things going on, but there are some smaller regional cities that have had relatively little comprehensive work done, or they've had underfunded work done. I don't know when you're going to get regional, but I'm thinking to myself that that might be a place to recruit or to focus. But what struck me then was that you're focusing on undergrads and current students, and I'm thinking, what about a fellowship program? A graduate of a planning school, a Harvard or wherever, they get the, what is that political side of a business degree? It's instead of the MBA, it's whatever, the government affairs. This, what you're offering, and the kind of accelerates, anyway, the number of things that you have could be like a fellowship, even if it's a mini fellowship. It would be a way for them to say, before I hit the job market and really take a job, I'm gonna do something that I can just add to my resume that says, and I'm gonna have an organization that's noted for strength in planning, strength in this and that, to say, I bring more than just the university. I bring something that's so practically involved that it's a proven track record. And here's what it could do.
Yeah, excellent idea. Yeah. And interestingly enough, in our recruitment efforts so far, we've really been focusing on upperclassmen and graduate students.
Oh, you have? Okay.
We have.
Sorry.
We have. We're particularly
Well,
in
that makes
terms
sense
of
to me.
our residential program, we're not really interested in babysitting.
Yeah, yeah.
We
They
have
don't know what they
met
want.
first.
Right, exactly.
Well, that's, and I think, well, okay, just a second, Steve. This whole, there's a rumbling and a desire by a number of people to quote, reactivate the academy, or at least do something that would be more comprehensive and in-depth. And I've put together a model some time ago on what I call the vocational thrust, in which you would have people from a particular domain, like we did this summer when we did teachers and so on. You could see education or health or urban planning or what have you, in which you take people on the vocational journey and the social service journey and the intellectual method journey, all of them then forming guilds that then they network with each other all over, etc. I mean, that would be another iteration of what you're trying to do. And there are, as I say, a number of people who, Herman Green and Bill Parker and myself and others that want to go down this road and explore it.
We'll all learn from you. Now, one of the things that does occur to me is it'd be important to know the terrain, to know what others are doing now in that arena. There's a lot of stuff going on that is intending to do exactly that. And to figure out where the gaps are that we can integrate and provide a new edge.
Yeah.
As opposed to presuming nothing's going on and coming in with a program. I'm not suggesting you're doing that,
No,
but some do.